Hi everybody, I'm Mataure. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. I'm sure you all remember Mandla.
Hi everybody, how you guys doing?
Good. So we're here with part 2 of our marriage series. We're just talking about some of the challenges that we faced in our marriage, and we're here with the second part. But before we get there, we need to talk about the elephant in the room. Have you subscribed to my channel? I mean, yes, I'm talking to you. You're always watching my videos. You're here all the time. I'm feeling a vibe between you and me. Are you feeling it too? If you are, just click the subscribe button down below.
So today we're going to talk about alcohol and how I struggled with it over the last 2 years or so, and some of the challenges that my drinking brought to my relationship, our relationship, and our marriage as well. So I think where's a good starting point?
Well, let's start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we started dating, I used to drink. Well, I do drink. He used to drink. It used to be fine. It was happy days. We used to drink together. We'd have a lot of fun. But I made it known to him very early on that I don't do drunken behavior or anything like that, because I grew up with a father who was a heavy drinker. So alcohol is something that I'd always been triggered by. So we agreed very early on that alcohol, drunken behavior is just not going to fly in our relationship.
And I think then, even after having that discussion, so very early on in our relationship, I still probably didn't take it as seriously as I should have, and kind of still go out, still have drinks, more one too many drinks. And I think that was probably the starting point, that got me to a place where I couldn't control my drinking. So that was way back when, and fast forward a few years later to 2019, when we moved out to Chimanimani, or I moved out first of all, and I started working a new job. A few months after that, the cyclone happened, and Cyclone Idai was devastating in the whole community. And throughout that time, all the stress and the pressure of having to manage a hotel, plus just trying to keep afloat, just survive. I think with everything going on, I think the drinking progressively got worse, and I found myself wanting to have a drink more and more often, and using that as sort of an outlet, when I needed to feel better, or to kind of console myself around everything that was going on.
I think also at the time, I didn't know that alcohol was the issue. I thought it was maybe just the stress from being here in Chimanimani and work and the cyclone and all that stuff. So I'd encourage him to, let's travel, let's go to Harare a bit more often, take more breaks, do this and that. But it didn't seem to be helping. So at the time, I was also going through my own issues. So I had chosen to speak to someone about it, but I also suggested that he does the same. There's a couple at church, our pastors, who were very close to and who've always sort of helped us along in our relationship. So I suggested that maybe he talks to the husband, I speak to the wife about my own things also, because I was hoping maybe if he spoke to someone about what was happening regarding stress and work, maybe it would help. But of course it didn't.
So we went into that session, and I spoke to the male pastor about what I was going through at work, and all the different pressures that I was facing, not actually realizing what was the root cause and what was actually going on. So it wasn't the work stress and pressure, it was the drinking that was actually a problem. So again, fast forward a bit later, I think to the beginning of this year, beginning of 2020, I found that I was now drinking a lot more than normal. It was just, it actually got really bad. If I wanted to have a drink, I'd get up feeling the urge to have a drink. Sometimes I'd actually go and do that. And it really put a strain on our marriage, and eventually got to the point where, people had to come and speak to me. And I think what happened was in January this year, we had a huge fight about it. Because I'd go to his office, maybe in the afternoon, he's having a drink by his feet. He'd have like bottles everywhere, and I started to pick up that, okay, you know what, it's actually not the stress that's the problem. This alcohol thing is really, really becoming an issue. And we had a huge fight about it, several of them actually. And I remember expressing to him that, I'm fed up, I can't take it.
I won't be married to an alcoholic and all that stuff. And then we discussed coping mechanisms. We said that he would only drink over the weekend, and he'll just overall cut down on his drinking, no drinking during the week, yada yada yada. Set up all these rules, which is all fine and dandy on my side. But then he started drinking behind my back.
So I think, with that, I honestly I pretty much lost control. I think I was now being dishonest and not communicating that, okay, fine, I'm struggling with this thing. I can't go without a drink each and every day or whatever it was. And by doing so, I was hiding the truth from my wife. I was being dishonest. I was causing a rift between us. And it got to the point where, my aunt had to come and speak to me. I think she had spoken to Kelly first and said, well, look, do you know that Manta's drinking so much, so many bottles a week and so on and so forth. And I think she then advised my aunt to come and speak to me, which she then did. And asked me, she asked me if I was drinking as a coping mechanism because of all the pressure at work and pressure of being a new parent and all those kind of things. And I kind of said, well, yes, I think so. That's what I think it is, but I'm not really sure what is going on. So what happened was that Kelly advised that, we reach out to the pastor at church, one of the pastors at church, to try and get some help, or at least to help me to solve this problem, because it was now out of hand.
It was really bad, because at the time when I'd asked his aunt to speak to him, it's because I couldn't take it anymore. I was tired of talking about it. It was really becoming an issue. So at least I hoped that maybe if he heard it from someone else, he'd take it more seriously. So we spoke about it. We agreed that he'd reach out to pastor and everything, because that's one of the rules that we have, that we don't talk to third parties about issues we're having in our relationship unless the other person agrees. So we talked about it. We agreed. He reached out, and pastor also reached out to me because he wanted to also hear my side of the story. And that's sort of where the road to recovery began.
So in my discussion with the pastor, what he basically said to me was that alcohol can completely ruin your marriage and ruin your life. You will lose your wife, you'll lose your child, and it's something that you just need to let go of. It was hard to hear because I thought I was in control. I thought I knew what I was doing, without realizing that I was probably a functional alcoholic, and to the extent that I was able to get my work done and go through my daily activities, but not realizing that there was something that was holding on to me, or something that was holding me back from I guess being a normal person. And the pastor said, no, look, this is what you have to do. There's no cutting down. You have to quit. Otherwise, you could end up losing your family.
And that was true. I mean, at the time we argued about it, this last time, I said to him that I will walk away. I'm not having my son raised by an alcoholic. I'm not doing it. And I think I was triggered as well, because to me, I wasn't just seeing you being an alcoholic, raising him. I could see him becoming an alcoholic as a result of being raised by one. So for me, it's not something I was willing to do. That was actually going to be a deal breaker in our marriage, but I didn't want it to get to that point. So I think we were desperate for help, because it was such a serious issue and we needed the help. So sometimes I think it's also good as a couple to be able to agree when you know that something is beyond the two of you. Like, we knew immediately this issue was so big, we need a third party to be able to help us through it. So I think I also encourage couples out there to also realize when you need help. A lot of the things that we go through in our marriage, we figure it out, the two of us, but sometimes it's always good to just get the right kind of help. Go to the right sources, people who are wise, people who want the best for you and who will guide you in the right direction.
And I think as guys, we tend to shy away from getting help when we might be going through something. We don't speak to our partners about it. We don't speak to family about it. And it's only when it gets to breaking point that we then try and piece everything together and try and but sometimes it's too late. So if you think something is wrong, or you feel that maybe you're struggling with substance abuse, or in particular alcohol, there's lots of people that you can reach out to. I think one of the things the pastor also shared with me was, or that he encouraged me to do, was to join AA. We can we can pray for each other, we can look out for each other, but it's also good to have people that you speak to who might have gone through what you are going through. So I did reach out to AA. I joined a WhatsApp group with them because at the time it was obviously during lockdown, so people weren't having physical meetings, but there was a lot of conversation happening in chat groups. We went through some of the AA material, and it really was helpful. It really helped me to get better, so to speak. I think I took 3 months off alcohol. It gave me time to focus. I had more clarity. I think it helped our marriage as well.
Yeah.
So it really worked. I'll put it that way.
I think I also will take some responsibility, because I think in the time that you were hiding it from me, it's because I also wasn't receptive to hearing about the problem you were going through. So because I was so easily triggered, all I needed to do was just smell whiskey on his breath, and I was losing it completely, which also I think is not a supportive way to help someone through something. I think also if I had been a bit more understanding and didn't blow up, like lose my head every time that this came up, I think it might have also been easier for you to come and speak to me about it. But because of my history, like I mentioned earlier, I couldn't do it. But I think it worked out. I think AA really helped as well.
So I think where we are now is at a point where I did start drinking again, but it's a lot more controlled. I think it's something that we also do together, because we also enjoy just having the occasional
just
drink
the two of
together.
us. Actually, those of you who follow me on Instagram, I'm sure you've seen our Friday date nights. It's nice, to be able to have a drink together and not have to worry.
But I think going forward, what I do know for a fact is that I'm going to quit alcohol indefinitely and just say, look, enough, and just stop. I think it's something that I can do without. I honestly want to have as long a life as I can, and part of that comes from looking after myself and looking after my body, looking after my mind. So trying to cut down is not going to work. It means I need to quit completely. I'm going to need to change my diet, exercise more, and I think even just the 3 months that I took not drinking, it really changed a lot of things. So I thought to myself, if this can be how I wake up and feel every day, if I feel good, I feel rested, that's something that I want to do. As we get older, it gets harder and harder to do certain things, but it's always good to try and eliminate some of the things that are bad for you, whether it's what you eat, what you drink, and so on. So that's what I'm looking forward to be able to talk about soon, hopefully.
Yeah. So I think for me, one of the things I struggled with now afterwards was learning to trust again, because my trust was violated. So it's been hard, but one thing that's helped is he's allowed me to talk about it. So I was honest and said to him, I don't want to have to worry every time I see you holding a drink to wonder if, is it too far? How many has he had today? Is that the first or is that the 10th? So I'm also now learning to kind of trust him again in that regard. And it's a lot better. It's a lot better.
But
Actually, the fact that we're talking about it means it's so much better.
There's still a lot of growing and learning to do. You never stop learning. So I know for a fact that I don't want to make any more mistakes. I don't want to ruin my marriage. I want to make sure that my son can look at me and say, well, I want to be like my father. I want to emulate all the good that he does. So I want to set a good example for him, and I want to make sure that I can look after my family to the best of my ability. And substance abuse does not help that at all.
And it's something that people take very lightly. It's just 1 or 2, and then it's 3 or 4 bottles a week. And it escalates so quickly. So if there's anyone out there who thinks they might be, on the brink of an issue, I think it's something to not ignore. Don't take it lightly. It's such a slippery slope. There's 2 types of alcoholics, in my opinion. There's like the drunk guy that you always see by the corner who's like black, can hardly walk. Then there's the functioning alcoholic who's going to work, seeing their family, doing everything as normal, but with high levels of alcohol in their system. And I think that's so dangerous, because you're ticking all the boxes on paper, but it's so unhealthy because you now need that boost to function. So if there's anyone out there who thinks they might be starting to have a problem, or if you're seeing your spouse is starting to pick up little traits, try and nip it in the bud. Don't let it escalate. Because you can lose so much. You can lose so much, and unfortunately, you can never go back in time and fix whatever damage happened before. So I'm also grateful that we kind of got a handle on this before it went too far. But just be aware, guys. These things, they sneak up. They sneak up, and you have to be careful.
I mean, this has been really, difficult to come out and talk about some of these things in the open. But I think that's also where part of the healing comes from, and where you start to rebuild trust, and just expressing and making yourself vulnerable, making yourself vulnerable, and sharing your experiences. I think it's not easy for me to talk about this, but I know that in doing so, it'll help me get better.
Yeah.
I think that's ultimately what I'd want us to achieve by doing this video.
Yeah, I mean, if there's even just one person who could be helped by any of these issues, then I think our job is done.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching, guys. This hasn't been an easy one to film, but thank you so much for being along with us on this ride. We've got part 3 coming next week, Monday, so stay tuned for that, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.